the Tanzanian government criticizes a new documentary about attacks on albinos. And Janet Jackson notches her 7th #1 album on the U.S. charts. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Residents in northeastern Nigeria remained shaken on Friday after at least 36 people were killed in multiple suicide attacks at a mosque and a residential building in Borno State, according to police and medical sources. Borno State is the birthplace of the Boko Haram insurgency and has been the focus of attacks by suspected members of the terrorist group. Some 1,000 killings have been attributed to Boko Haram since President Muhammadu Buhari took office in May. Well, now Cameroon and its neighbors are welcoming America's decision to send troops to help track Boko Haram militants in that region. Wednesday's White House announcement came amid an increasing number of suicide attacks on civilians in border areas of Nigeria, Cameroon and Chad, alongside Niger. VOA's Laditza Hoke has more.
Boko Haram has killed about 400 civilians in northern Cameroon since last year. The group's brazen attacks in recent months have led the government to beef up its military presence in the region with backing from Chad, and public buildings throughout the capital Yaoundé have been fitted with metal detectors.
It's a good initiative. It makes Cameroonians aware of what our country is going through.
But many people have had enough of the violence and are trying to leave the country in the hope of a better life in Western Europe. Some don't make it, like this woman from Yaoundé who has been detained by coast guards in Libya.
Why I left my country because of Boko Haram. Boko Haram is so disturbing us. So they kill our parents, they kill our brothers and sisters. That is the problem why I have to run from my country to find and give good education for my children and my husband.
The Obama administration announced Wednesday it will deploy up to 300 military personnel to Cameroon for intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance operations against Boko Haram insurgents. Cameroonians welcome the support.
The decision to send American troops is very timely because it is support that will really help Cameroon. And beyond this support, we have to look at the entire front line. It's not just Cameroon receiving support.
Some people question the motives for help.
I can understand that such a crisis situation needs energy and responses that are adapted to the situation. But we must not forget that the states that come to help us have an interest in it.
Neighboring Nigeria also has welcomed the U.S. decision to send troops to Cameroon and has asked other countries to follow suit in order to eradicate terrorism in the region. Laditza Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
Now to East Africa. The Tanzanian government is criticizing a documentary about attacks on albinos that opens in the United States on Friday. The government claims the film is sensational, inaccurate, and ignores its efforts to stop the brutal treatment of albinos. Well, the film's release in New York coincides with a warning by UN human rights expert that attacks on albinos in Africa are on the rise ahead of elections as political hopefuls fuel the trade in body parts used in spells claiming to bring luck. UN figures estimate that 75 albinos, including children, have been killed in Tanzania since 2000, with many others suffering attacks, including having their limbs hacked off.
Regrettably, some individuals and entities have transformed the plight of our people as a source of generating fame and/or income. These have resulted to exaggerations, drama, and blatant disregard of the positive measures we are taking as a country and by our leaders. Unfortunately, these include authors and producers of the film titled The Boy from Geita.
Now, election campaign is at a fever pitch in Tanzania with just a week to go before ballots are cast. This week, the opposition claimed the ruling party, Chama cha Mapinduzi, is planning to rig the vote. Tanzanian President Jakaya Kikwete has dismissed those claims and in turn accused the opposition of stoking unrest before the parallel presidential, parliamentary and local government polls. Well, for more on the upcoming Tanzanian elections, I'm joined by Mamoya Hamza, the head of VOA's Swahili service. Hamza, welcome to Africa 54.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, it's just a few days, and finally this election is coming up. First, share with us, how is the mood on the ground? And I know there have been a few unfortunate, tragic events that have taken place in the last few days.
The mood is of general excitement. This has been one very competitive election campaigning period, and it appears that a lot more Tanzanians are involved in this election. They are more interested in it. They are listening to the candidates. They are attending the rallies, and so there is a huge sense of expectations on Tanzanians. There are, as you say, there have been some tragic events happening. Just last night, a helicopter went down in southern Tanzania. In it was a member of parliament for Njombe, I think, in Tanzania, and he passed away, plus the pilot. So,
that's so sad.
Yeah, so there have been those kind of tragic events.
Yeah. Now, for some, Tanzania election has not generated a lot of interest internationally in the past. If you were to tell somebody, why is this particular election of great interest, or why should it be?
It is of great interest because the opposition, for the first time in Tanzania, has a realistic chance of winning the elections. Mm-hmm. Tanzania has been doing elections every 5 years for the past 50 years. Even during Mwalimu Nyerere's period, there were elections every 5 years. There were one-party election, but there were elections every 5 years. So it's an exercise that Tanzanians know well. But there has never been a time when an opposition had such a good chance of winning the elections than this time. That's why there's so much interest in it.
And now, in terms of what's on the agenda, is it so much about the person standing, or are there specific issues that endear this opposition candidate or the opposition parties to the voters?
They are both. On the opposition side, there is the issue of personality. Edward Lowassa, who was a former prime minister, and he defected from the ruling party and joined the coalition. And he brings a different kind of charisma, and he has been able to galvanize opposition members. His public rallies are just, huge. Yes. But on the other side, the incumbent CCM, they have fielded John Magufuli. As we cover the campaigns, we find out that CCM is selling Magufuli himself as a person more than
the party.
The party. And because Magufuli has a reputation of being a hard worker. So their most common slogan in Swahili is hapa kazi tu. This is just work. Yes. So there is that kind of personalities on both sides. But it's a very, very competitive election.
Anytime there's an election in an African country, there's always tension and this apprehension that there might be violence. Do you get that sense on the ground?
Yeah, that has always been there. But a lot of people are hoping and praying that it won't turn into any kind of violence. Tanzanians, they pride themselves as very peaceful people. There has never been, anything close to, national violence or, that kind of thing. But hey, you don't know.
This is a different time.
Yeah, it's a different time. It's a different kind of elections.
Yeah.
Everybody has to be on guard.
Yeah.
And the Tanzanians themselves, I think, they have to will themselves that they want this thing to be peaceful. And if it goes peaceful, this will be a major achievement in Tanzania's democracy.
And a great example for East Africa, too. Thank you very much, Hamza, for sharing this thought with us. While Mamoya Hamza is the head of VOA's Swahili service. Now, back to West Africa, Guinean President Alpha Condé appears to be on track to win another term in office in the first round of voting in the country's presidential election. With around 80% of the vote counted after Sunday's election in the West African nation, Mr. Condé is looking good to win an absolute majority, and the results from regions yet to be declared will not be enough to allow his opponents to catch up. Condé had won around 60% of the vote. His main opponent, Cellou Dalein Diallo, garnered 30%, and another opposition candidate, Sidia Touré, has over 5%. Now, speaking on VOA's French to Africa program, Washington Forum, and Mamadi Konde, Guinea's ambassador to the U.S., cautioned against violence.
I think Guinean leaders today should be aware of one thing. We must not sacrifice the future of this nation on the altar of personal ambition. It's got to stop. Guinea has come a long way. It's contrary to the reason to put everything we've achieved into question. We must preserve unity. Peace is very easy to destroy, but difficult to build.
Well, Mamadi Konde, ambassador of Guinea to the United States. Now, acknowledging what he called the fragile security situation in Afghanistan, U.S. President Barack Obama on Thursday announced the United States will slow the pace of its withdrawal from the war-torn country. We get more from VOA White House correspondent Aru Pandey.
For a president who came into office vowing to end the U.S. wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, Thursday's announcement to keep some 5,500 troops in Afghanistan after the end of 2016 was likely not an easy one for Barack Obama.
I do not support the idea of endless war, and I have repeatedly argued against marching into open-ended military conflicts that do not serve our core security interests.
Flanked by Vice President Joe Biden and Defense Secretary Ash Carter, Obama on Thursday said 9,800 troops would remain in Afghanistan through most of next year. Instead of going down to a military presence of some 1,000 U.S. forces based in Kabul after 2016 as planned, the president said the U.S. will maintain 5,500 troops at bases like Bagram and in Kandahar. The reversal of the rapid drawdown comes just weeks after Taliban militants seized the northern city of Kunduz before it was retaken by U.S.-backed Afghan troops in recent days. Obama on Thursday acknowledged Afghan forces are not as strong as they need to be to deal with security challenges in their country.
Pressure from Pakistan has resulted in more al-Qaeda coming into Afghanistan, and we've seen the emergence of an ISIL presence. The bottom line is, in key areas of the country, the security situation is still very fragile, and in some places, there's risk of deterioration.
The president maintained that the U.S. non-combat mission does not change. American military personnel will continue to train and advise Afghan security forces while carrying out counterterrorism operations. The Wilson Center's Michael Kugelman says even in this capacity, the continued U.S. presence will serve as a psychological boost for beleaguered Afghan forces.
Desertion rates have always been very high within the Afghan security forces, particularly after the takeover, the brief Taliban takeover of Kunduz. And essentially, if these Afghan troops know that the U.S. military is not abandoning them, not in 2016, not in 2017, I think that'll be a big pick-me-up.
Thursday, Obama made clear the U.S. was not abandoning Afghanistan, even as he abandoned plans to leave a legacy that includes an end to the U.S. military presence in that country. Aru Pandey, VOA News, the White House.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Now find me on Twitter at VOA Vincent Makori. Coming up, the complex world of coffee and tea. Stay with us.
This is BizBeat.
As soon as you walk out these doors, you have 1 hour to complete.
John Chicheng is training to be a European-style butler, a service in demand for China's growing affluent upper class. She says, I quite like the job. It has high requirements in all aspects. It broadens my horizon. Every day there are always new things, she says. But it's not easy to master the art of cooking, table setting, serving, even ironing. And today, Zhang, a former school teacher, already made several mistakes at the International Butler Academy in Chengdu. Christopher Noble is the Academy's senior instructor.
One of the challenges that we have with our students is convincing them to put others ahead of yourself.
Salaries for butlers in China range from $24,000 to $36,000 a year, including room and board, 2 to 3 times the average salary in Beijing. For VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
Welcome back to Africa 54. In support of Global Diaspora Week, the U.S. State Department's Bureau of African Affairs Division and Pan-African Exchange, PANEX, hosted a coffee and tea cupping competition and discussion. Licensed professionals guided people through the cupping process and spoke in depth about the complex world of coffee and tea and the economic hurdles and opportunities stakeholders face. Now, for a better understanding of the world of coffee, I'm joined by Jacob Maga, CEO, Pan-African Exchange, PANEX, and Ricardo Pereira, Certified Q Grader, Ally Incorporated. Gentlemen, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you, Vincent.
So first, just share with us how this concept came up of roasting and tasting coffee right here.
The concept came up as part of the exchange program to market African coffees across the world and to bring out the best of it. And it's part of the exchange marketing development aspects.
Yes. Now, Ricardo, I'm seeing different bags of coffee here. As an amateur, I wouldn't really know the difference between one and the other. What is it that makes a coffee special, that makes it appealing to somebody?
Well, several factors play into that question. One of them is where it's grown, what kind of variety of coffee, species of coffee it's grown, and the process of processing the coffee after harvest, how you process that coffee. So there are several steps to make the coffee special. When you look at three different bags, sometimes we have different grades written on the bags, and that's how you distinguish one from the other one.
Now, in terms of this was also a competition. First, which coffee won?
Well, the winning coffee is called Alimu, and it's from Kirinyaga, Kenya. It's called very early, and we really congratulate them. And we're going to send them the bragging rights for the next 3 months before we host the next event.
Now, Ricardo, what is it that somebody, could get from that coffee that would make them say, this is so special, so different from the other coffees?
Yeah, the flavor of the coffee was superior than the other ones. You found notes of citrus and notes of chocolate on the coffee, very smooth, but bright as well, lively.
So where do those come from, the chocolate and the...
Those comes from years of experience in tasting coffee and being able to distinguish the nuances and the flavors that are in coffee. Naturally in coffee, nothing that you add to it. It's just naturally grown that way.
Now, Jacob, one of the biggest challenges for coffee farmers, say those in Kenya, is that they don't get that kind of value added to their product. They see this coffee being consumed abroad at exorbitant prices, but then they don't get that back. What is it that you can do, guys like you, to make sure they really get the value of their coffee?
For the exchange, we offer full transparency, and this is actually the first time an African farmer will be able to see the price of coffee that is traded on the international market, not just in batches, but specifically from their village. Just after the event, this coffee right here that won the event yesterday sold for over $4 a pound. That is a significant amount of money that will go back to the farmers. And we want to encourage the farmers not just to produce coffee, but to produce the best. And they can be assured that there is a market on the other side through the Exchange Futures program.
Now, Ricardo, do you think it is important for those who consume coffee to know where they come from, where that coffee really originates, not just the country, but if possible, the region?
Yes, definitely, because we want to motivate those producers to do higher quality. If the end consumer know who is producing their coffee, that is another added value to it. So it's interesting to see that the market is actually demanding more and more this kind of information from the roasters that are roasting the coffee. They're buying the coffee from those producers to tell this story, because at the end of the day, it matters what they're doing. The producer is on the home front producing the better quality coffees, and if you don't tell this story, how can people relate to it?
Now, Jacob, how did you get the State Department in the mix here?
The State Department came in as part of the Africa Diaspora Week, and I have relationship with different people in the State Department that I have been presenting to. And they really supported us in this endeavor. And we look forward for not only just moral support, but other things that they might be able to do. For instance, making it easier for us to export coffee and coffee samples in a timely manner through customs and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So we want to really make sure that not only do we get the coffees here on time, but the transparency is there as well.
And it's not just only coffee. If you can quickly just help us understand what Panex does.
So Panex is a commodities exchange. So we don't only deal with coffee, we deal with tea. We had also tea cupping at this event as well. And we had teas from Kericho, Kenya, and tea, milk, sugar, maize. And in Zambia, being one of the biggest producers of maize and soybeans, we're going to be trading maize and beans there. Then a country like Ivory Coast, we're going to be doing cocoa from Ivory Coast. And hopefully in maybe a few months down the road, we're going to do also gold.
Oh, really?
And, yeah.
That's
and
big.
have in mind that Zambia itself is the biggest producer of copper in Africa. And next door in Congo, they're really expanding their production of different metals.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Very insightful and potentially very beneficial to African farmers.
Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much. Now, Jacob Maaga is the CEO of Pan-African Exchange. That's Panex, and Ricardo Pereira is a certified Q grader, Ally Incorporated. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, and unbreakable streak for a pop superstar. I'll be right back.
Since billions of taxpayers, because we have few members of the Complaints Commission, but to use the content of any broadcast publication or dissemination.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Now, pop star Janet Jackson scored her 7th #1 album on the weekly U.S. Billboard 200 album chart this week, making her only the 3rd musician to achieve a chart-topping record in each of the past 4 decades. Unbreakable, Jackson's 11th studio album and the first after the 2009 death of her pop star brother Michael Jackson, sold 109,000 albums, 44,000 songs, and was streamed nearly 4 million times in the week ending October the 8th. Well, next up, it's the end of an era. Playboy magazine will no longer publish photos of nude women as part of a redesign. The magazine will still feature women in provocative poses, but they will no longer be fully nude, Playboy said in a statement. The change marks the latest step away from depictions of full nudity, which were banned from the magazine's website in August 2014. Now, the magazine claims its website audience soared with that move, averaging a 400% increase in monthly unique visitors. Well, and finally, what's behind the door? This is the Rage Room, where citizens of Lodz in central Poland have found a new place for stress relief, where people are encouraged to destroy whatever they want. The idea is simple. For only €35, each customer gets 30 minutes in the room. Everyone is required to wear a protective helmet when entering the room, but once inside, anything goes. Customers can select their weapon of choice from hammers to baseball bats. People can smash TV sets, mirrors, coat racks, chairs, glasses, and all other items placed in the room. And that is what is trending today. Well, welcome back. It's time for a sports report. Sonny Young is on assignment, but it is a different sports item of interest. A marathon, and the winner is not from Kenya and not from Ethiopia or Eritrea. It seems that no African was crazy enough to enter the race crossing 254 kilometers of Amazon jungle in Brazil. In fact, only 30 of the 41 runners who started the race finished it. Through swamps and rivers, the racers had to avoid flesh-eating piranhas, poisonous snakes, and a host of jaguars and other creatures large and small. The winner from Germany reached the finish line in 40 hours and 10 minutes. 33-year-old Alma Vitola from Latvia was the women's champion. She eventually finished in 56 hours, 38 after Thomas Witek. The veteran winner was 64-year-old Lutz Barco from Spain. Now, Sonny Young returns from his assignment and will be back with the sunny side of sports next week. We close now our show with a trio of Kenyan and Congolese crooners who came together recently in Nairobi to record this original song, Maisha. Here are the Ketebul All-Stars. Thanks for watching and good night from all of us here in Washington.
Music is something that brings people together.
Music educates, it motivates, it's a bridge.
Music. Ali.
On.
VOA.
qubanaha VOA waxaan ku soo gudbinnaa qubanayaal goosgoos oo xiiso badan oo ku saabsan arrimaha Soomaaliya, Mareykanka iyo caalamkaba.
haddaba qubanaha VOA-da kala soco website-keena voasomali.com.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report.
I'm Mil Arcega. I'm the host of VOA's The Correspondents.
A roundup of the world's top stories.
Here's a false choice in more ways than one.
We can't actually put you there, but we can come pretty close. In 30 minutes, we'll show you the world.